Alright, I'm JC. I'm going to be going over question 1, which is just about what the links that I found between the different case studies and how I thought what they had in common. So when looking at the case studies of Nanabe, Jefferson, and Job, I felt that they all shared common struggles such as poverty, unstable family structures, and just different barriers to their education and terms of their community and where they were growing up. Each of them faced different obstacles that made attending school very difficult, whether it was due to distance, financial struggles, dangerous environments, or just the different expectations that society had for them. And all of them had different moments where they were forced to prioritize not only their self but like their education, but they had to prioritize just simply surviving at such a young age, and that often affected their schooling in a negative way. Each of these children showed resilience and determination, and they wanted to improve their circumstances and be different and be better. Jefferson and Nanabe's mom both were advocates for wanting them to be better. Nanabe's mom might have handled it in a way that seemed harsh. She didn't let her come back after she learned that she dropped out, but in the video it talks about how the reason she did that was because she did not want her to end up like her, and she wanted her to do better and get her education. And Jefferson's mom was so adamant about him and his siblings not falling into the patterns of society like the drug dealers, and so she moved them, and they moved in with her uncle, with her brother, their uncle, so that they could get away from that, so that they could do better and they could live a different life than their parents had to live. Joab's dad was a little different. His mom died, and so his dad kind of left them, and he was forced to be the leader, but he was determined to make a difference for himself, which I thought was very inspiring, and he wanted to do better for his siblings also, which I thought was also very inspiring. Okay, I'm going to move on to question 2, which is about the role of school and how it can pull us out of difficult situations. If there is a noise, I'm so sorry. I have tried everything to fix it, and I can't. I don't know how. I'm just working with what I have. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I do think that these case studies show that access to education can help children escape from difficult situations. A good example of this is Jefferson's story. School helped him not fall into paths such as becoming a drug dealer, like it was so common in his culture around him. However, he did still face challenges. He fell into the wrong crowd, and instead of continuing on that path after he got held back, he realized he wanted to do better for himself, and he wanted to continue in school. Same kind of happened with Joab after he left school for that short period of time, and then he came back, and he made a promise to himself that he was going to do better, and to his teachers that he would do better, and he ended up being, I think it was third in his class that year. So he kind of learned that I think seeing that how life was in school and then going to those difficult, dark situations, it allowed them to realize that even though school might have been challenging, it was definitely the better option, and it was going to be their way out of those circumstances. And so if they wanted to do better for themselves, they had to continue on their path of school. So I do think these are some success stories. It's definitely a much grander scale than we're going to see in the U.S. But I do think it is true in the U.S. as well. School and extracurricular activities are a great way to help kids stay on the right path and not fall into those bad habits such as like drugs and stuff like that. kind of already started answering question 3 on accident in the last one, but question 3 is talking about how the children's lives compare to children that I work with or we work with currently or growing up. I think that, oh my goodness. I think that the children in the video are definitely going through much more challenging situations. I mean, they are just trying to survive on their walk to school, and then they get to school, and in some cases they're in a classroom of 94 students, whereas our students are riding the bus or being dropped off. However, our students definitely still face struggles such as financial problems or instability at home that do lead to barriers in their education. Language is also a barrier that occurs, especially in my school. I have a very diverse school where I have lots of students who either their first language is not English or their parents don't speak English at all, so that is very challenging when trying to communicate with them. I think that there are definitely lots of strengths of being in our environment. We have way more access to resources, we have way more teachers, we have way more room for kids. I do think that although the video scenarios have so many struggles, I think just watching the videos, I was just amazed at how the teacher was able to gather the students and have all of their attention and have so many of them engaged at once. I mean, I struggle in my classroom of just 20 to have them all engaged at once, and she was able to grasp all of their attention. I think that kids there value their learning a little bit differently. Maybe, I don't want to say more, but I kind of feel like they value it a little bit more because they are taught that if they are not there, they are going to end up in these dark, hard situations. So they want to do better. Whereas our students, it's kind of just like a norm. They don't know anything else. Everyone goes to school. That's all they've ever known. And so you often hear them complaining a lot more about having to be there and like having to learn. So they don't have as, there's definitely, they still have excitement and appreciation, but I feel like it's in a different way because to them it's something that comes free and it's easy to have, whereas the students in the video, not everyone gets to experience that. So it is very special and important that they're getting to have that access, and so they are taught to value it a little bit differently. Question 4 is regarding global education and if it would be appropriate in these settings portrayed in the video. I do think a global education curriculum could be beneficial. However, it would definitely have to be adapted to the specific needs and realities of each context and the community of each of these schools that we see in these videos. Traditional global education is going to be talking about things such as cultural awareness and global issues, which are valuable for students to learn. However, these children are facing huge barriers such as poverty and lack of stability and major safety concerns. So there's not really going to be a curriculum that's going to satisfy and be one size fits all. They're all going to have to be adapted to where it's going to fit the setting that it's going to be taught in. So before this curriculum could be used, these students need to have access to their basic essential needs before I would even worry about implementing Number 5 is just what we learned from the stories. I think these stories can be used to serve as a reminder to us as teachers that student struggles extend way beyond the classroom. We never know what the students in our classroom are going through outside other than what they share. And a lot of the times they might not feel comfortable to share absolutely everything, especially those major things. I think it also just really brought into perspective for me how fortunate we are to live where we are and have the opportunities we do. I was amazed by the teachers in the videos and how they were able to have such control over classrooms filled with so many kids and be so passionate about their work. And I just was in awe of how they made it look almost easy. And I can't imagine how challenging that truly is. Many children here in the U.S. also face instability and poverty and family challenges that impact their learning. And it is important for us as educators to be aware of things like this. I think these case studies really highlight the importance of having the community and the family involved in something and having them support the students' education and encouraging them to want to do better and push themselves. I remember when I was in school, I can't remember if it was middle school or high school, but we watched a video like this, and I remember we had a discussion afterwards, and we just talked about how it made us all really appreciate where we were from and the opportunities we were blessed to have, and how amazing it was that these kids wanted to learn so badly that they would go on these mile-long journeys to school every day, and they would be dangerous journeys that they had to walk through. And it just showed us how much we take for granted just our quick car ride to school. I think that it should be encouraged to show our students videos like this. Maybe, obviously at an appropriate age and level, but I do think it's important to show them this, to show them how blessed they truly are and how not everyone has the access that they do. Because I do think that so many students are unaware of it, and it kind of causes them not to appreciate it as much as the students we see in the video. But overall, I think that we can learn a lot from these videos. We can learn a lot from the students and their resilience, the teachers, and just how different education looks in all these different places in the world. Hi, I'm Claire, and I am going to be answering a few of the questions in these next few videos. So for question number 1, I definitely found some commonalities between the 3 case studies of the 3 boys in different, different cultures, different family situations, things like that. A lot of the commonalities surrounded going to school, staying with school, and then being motivated to finish school so that they can get out of the current situation that they're in. So I think the reason for these commonalities has to do a lot with the situation that they were placed in. They were all from a very low income background, and getting to school often wasn't the biggest priority because oftentimes they needed to work to support their families. So I think that is the reason why it was often hard for them to get to school. Okay, so for question number 2, I would definitely think that school was able to bring the students out of different difficult situations because, first of all, it got them doing something, it got them in a routine every single day. Second of all, even though in the first case study, Navai wasn't able to finish school, she still was able to
continue with their education and get on a different path of photography instead of not having a path. And then with the boys, they were able to, it didn't show at the end how far they made it in school, but they were definitely able to make it a lot further in school than their parents did and some of their siblings did as well. I would definitely consider these success stories because the school also was able to give the students food and mentors and supports that they needed, because oftentimes, as seen, their parents weren't always there for them in general or there for them in an educational aspect. So I would consider these success stories, especially because being the oldest sibling, then the younger siblings were able to go to school too, as seen in two of the case studies. Okay, so going off what JC said when she answered question number 3, I would have to completely agree with her answer, because although students in America do face lots of financial challenges, food struggles, things like that, the challenges such as walking to school and hearing gunshots or living in a favela, things like that, are much more intense than oftentimes the students in the United States have to worry about, especially because education it's much easier to enroll in school. And as it said in the documentary or the case study about Brazil, the government had to make the change for students to go to school, but in the United States it's a lot different than that. So I do think that the children that I have worked with have had similar struggles about food, foster care, having their parents around, things like that, but not as intense as the ones in this video. And I think the strengths portrayed the support of the teachers a lot, because the students oftentimes would tell the teachers, I will be here and I want you to keep me accountable. And I think the fact that the students want to go to school that badly definitely shows that the environment that the teachers created was definitely one of community in the schools. Okay, so question number 4, going off what JC said too, as curriculum for global education isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all mold for different types of global education. So I definitely think that cultural awareness, cultural diversity, and educating students on different types of culture and how to interact with different cultures is very important. The students that were portrayed in these videos definitely have a lot bigger struggles, such as making sure that they can safely get to school, which isn't going to be something that is directly talked about in the global education. Yet I do think it's important for students in the United States learning about global education from Brazil and Africa and all these different areas. It's very important for students to know that they're very lucky to be in a safe environment when they are going to school. And I also think it's important to highlight, kind of moving on to question 5, that what I learned specifically from these stories is the community that the teachers fostered in these schools all over the world was the reason that the kids came to school and were excited to go to school. And I feel like oftentimes when I've been subbing and especially in my student teaching, the kids oftentimes didn't want to come to school. They didn't enjoy the food at lunch. They thought it was gross. But as we can see in these videos, it's such a luxury to be able to go to school for these students all across the globe. So I think it's very important for students to understand that it's luxury to be given food and support at school, but also that teachers have a really big priority to foster an environment where students are excited and engaging with school. And even in the case study where there was 95 students, the teacher was handling the classroom and teaching all these students how to read. And oftentimes I feel like I get overwhelmed with only 23 students. So I think it's very important that teachers know that, like, putting our best foot forward no matter the circumstance is always the best way to support the students, because at the end of the day, it's the students' education and it's our job to make sure that they have a great education. So thank you so much.
Hi there, I am Sania. I am going to answer kind of some of these questions together. So for 1 and 2, first, some commonalities that are, similar between the lives of Nanavi, Jefferson, and Job I just noticed throughout the videos that they had really supportive teachers. That every time it showed a clip of them interacting with their teachers, that the class was engaged. And I think that you guys have said this already in some of your videos, but they were just super engaged. The kids, you could tell that they wanted to be there, but also the teachers, like you guys were saying earlier, do such a great job of keeping the class engaged. And you can tell that the teachers value their work and probably know how important it is being in countries that where the education maybe the system isn't so strong. You can tell that these teachers are envisioned for what they do. They are passionate about teaching, and they know that they're making like big changes in these kids' lives. And so because of that, they're super passionate when they teach, and are doing everything that they probably can to keep the class engaged. And so I can't even imagine what that might look like in person, like having a teacher passionately teach you, and you know that school is a great opportunity. It's a unique opportunity for the kids in your country to be able to participate in that. And so I just saw a lot of like connection between the teachers and the kids, and how that even like pushed the kids to show up, and pushed them to keep trying, even if they had to take a break, or they weren't doing so well at first, and then needed to make a change to be able to continue in school. And then number 2, is this a success story? I would consider all of these success stories. I think Claire was saying this, but even Nanavi, who did not end up continuing through school, she's the only one we got to watch until she was 21 years old. And even in her situation where she left school and she ended up like having a baby and all of that, I think we do get to see in her story that she pursues something that she did learn in school. Even if she didn't finish school, she continued to pursue something that meant a lot to her, that she started learning in school. And that's really powerful. I think that's true for like a lot of students. Is school is a place where you learn about a like grand scheme of different subjects, and like students get to choose what they're interested in and carry on with that through the rest of their life. That's even how it works here in the US. And I think part of the point of school is to do that, to give students the opportunity to be exposed to a whole bunch of different subjects, and for them to choose what interests them and what they would like to pursue in their future, to be successful. And so I think that's exactly what she did. And I think with Jefferson and Job, they both had periods of their life where they had to stop going to school, or they needed to take a break, or they had a period where they got held back. So there was some sort of obstacle in their schooling journey, and they pushed through and they continued. And we don't get to see their life after school, after they graduate, but I think from what we do see in school and the amount at which they work at school, and are dedicated to it, is really amazing. And I think that is a success story because their families did not get that opportunity, and they are like within the generation that's like changing that opportunity. And so I think just looking at their life in school, I think that they will be successful even after school, that they'll, just like Nanavi, they'll pick something to pursue that they learned in school even further for like a career. So it's pretty awesome. I would agree with the fact that I think both of you guys before me have pointed this out, but with the fact that students here in the US have a lot more opportunity right away. It's assumed that you'll go to school rather than such a privilege like in these clips that we're watching. these kids have a very unique opportunity in these videos to be one of the only ones who get the education that they're getting, I think. And so it is quite different than like being in the US and everybody goes to school and has the opportunity. And kids here are not necessarily all dealing with trying to raise the rest of their family in the ways that or trying to support their family in the ways that the kids in these videos have the pressure of. And so, but I think you guys are right also in that there are unique challenges that kids here face, such as poverty, and then also like food insecurity and things like that. So, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about the global education. I think that actually, yes, it might be helpful to incorporate global education and the curriculum that we've been exploring into these kids' education, though maybe more focused on global education in their later part of their journey of being in school, just because it is really important, I think, for everyone to understand like the interconnectedness of the world and what we can learn from different cultures and different identities. And I think, like, I don't know about Nanavi, but Jefferson and Job, I think will have like a professional career if they end up graduating from school. And so I think it's important in any professional career to understand global education and different cultures, different languages, things like that, different identities. So last question, what can we learn from these? I think that each of them is just such a unique story. I think it's reminding me that even within my classroom here in the US, like each of my kids has a unique story, and I don't even know the extent of what they are handling at home, even if it may not be as severe as trying to take care of the rest of your family like Job, but they are each going through something and also are each able to experience school in the ways that these kids have been able to, with the internal determination and motivation, and I would like to be a teacher that is there for them in the same way that the teachers in these videos are.
All right, hey guys, my name is Maddie Bennett, and I kind of want to take a second to connect these 3 case studies to the interview that I did for this class. So one of the ladies that I interviewed is actually from Tanzania, and she had a story that was pretty similar to Nanavi, where in Tanzania, and she's not a part of this culture in particular, but she deals a lot with it. There is a tribe called the Maasai, and they have cultural practices where they don't see value in girls' education. And it's starting to change because of Tanzanian government pushing policies to encourage girls getting educated, but instead, kind of like what they talked about with Nanavi and the voodoo cult, and how they spend time with the priest and then get married at a young age, and how that was kind of a struggle for Nanavi as she was seeing people, girls her own age, getting married. This is really relevant in Tanzanian culture, especially in the Maasai and other tribe cultures. And so the lady that I interviewed, Heavenlight, she kind of talked about how, similarly to Nanavi's father, her father was very intentional in her going to school and getting an education, even if it was kind of countercultural for a lot of those people. And then it also, another thing about Nanavi's story that reminded me of her was the women mediators. So Heavenlight is a part of a group that goes to Maasai schools that have girls, and they teach them about their rights and all the things like that it is to be a woman, and that goes into it, like how your body changes, and how even if you are going to get married young, because for a lot of them, they're going to get married really young, how there are practices that you can have that will prevent early pregnancy and a higher, that way they don't have to deal with the struggles of an early pregnancy, because there's a lot of them. And other cultural practices that they can prevent, and how they can say no and their rights. It's really cool, and it's really empowering. And when I was in Tanzania, I actually got to be a part of that and go to the schools there. And so that was really encouraging and inspiring. And similarly to Job and his story, being able to go into the schools at Tanzania, you see classrooms that are filled with kids, and each kid is excited to be there and engaged. And even if there is 1 or 2 teachers, there's still at least 40 kids per teacher, at least. And just kind of what y'all were talking about, the attitude of, we want to be here, it is a privilege to be here and to be learning, is different than it is in America for a lot of classrooms. And one thing that Heaven Light talked about was how in Tanzania, similarly to both Job and Nanavi, they have to walk a lot, and that can, and honestly Jefferson, that can create safety issues for the children going to school. And so since the children are traveling so far to get to school, it's putting them in these dangerous situations, especially for girls, where there is a threat of abuse, be it sexual harassment or whatever. And so as I was watching these case studies, I couldn't help but be reminded of the interviews that I've had and the experiences that I have with children in these similar situations, and how, despite all of the challenges that they face, how there are still strengths in the environment of the students want to be there. It is normally a safe place for kids to be, especially compared to their home life. And like Job, they provide kind of supports in which they provide food and stuff back at home. Like all of y'all have said, I also deem these all success stories, regardless of them completing education, because we don't know if Jefferson or Job completed their education. We know Nanavi didn't, but that she continued with a photography apprenticeship. I deem them success stories because they have learned, they do have profitable skills. They can read, they can write, and they're better off than where their parents are. And so they have more opportunities, but also the true success lies in they have all seen the value in education. I think it was Job that said what he likes most about school is when they are learning, they are exchanging ideas, and that regardless of the challenges that he has faced, and this goes for Nanavi and Jefferson, he is determined to continue to learn. And so that's why I deem them success stories. I apologize for jumping all over the place in my discussion, but I think we all kind of had the same idea about their global education, that it is relevant, but that they have so many other needs that should be met before going into global education. And I think, Senia, you said that while we don't see what Job and Jefferson end up doing in their professional lives, that it would be especially relevant for them. But I've got to say, I think Nanavi is the one that would really benefit from having a global education, and that it is relevant for them, even if they have other needs that should be met. It is important to know what is going on in the world around us, and be connected to people around the world so that we can share experiences. And like Job said, like, he loved getting people's different views on things. But for Nanavi, her mentor said that she is a photographer, but she's also a reporter. And so being a reporter, it would really benefit her to have global perspectives when to help transform her stories that she is reporting on. And so I think global education is taking the education that they have a step further and connecting them to the world around them, and to see, especially in the realm of education, that just the relevance that education has in success. And in Job's story, we kind of get a glimpse of a little bit of global education, I think. I mean, it could be more so history. I don't know, because we're not in that classroom. But they were talking about different provinces across Africa. And so if the teacher took it a step further, it could very well be a global education lesson. I don't know, because we're not there, and we only got a glimpse of that. But even still, they're learning about the world around them. I definitely agree with y'all about how we can learn from these stories to enrich our work here in the United States. One of my biggest takeaways, similarly to y'all's, is that our students go through so much at home. And what these case studies really reflected was that our students' personal lives affect their lives at school, and plays a role in their education. And so that's the same in Benin, it's the same in Brazil, it's the same in Kenya, it's the same in the United States. Their home lives affect their lives in school. And so I think as teachers, we need to take that into consideration in our lessons, in how we interact with our students, and the supports that we provide. I think, JC, you kind of talked about it. Oh my goodness, that one teacher with the 72 students, how she had them all engaged and working on and they're engaged in their own learning, I think was really cool. Because as we saw, she kind of had it like stations. She had some students working on the wall, working on their numbers and spelling them. Then she had some students that were sitting on the mats, and she would come and check on them. And she just had different stations, and they were all engaged. They were all working on what they were supposed to do. And then she was kind of actively monitoring them, checking on their progress. And then when they regrouped, they went over the stuff they had been covering as a class. And I think just seeing their engagement and the strategies that she had for such a large class could be really beneficial when we are feeling overwhelmed with our 25 kids or 22 kids in our classrooms. I also think that in Jefferson's story, the teacher did something that we can incorporate in our own classrooms to enrich our classrooms. I think she used the current events and the current struggles with the drug war to create a space that the students feel safe to share and talk about it and learn from these issues. We see depictions of the drug war in the students' drawings. And so from there, she is bringing a current event that is relevant to the everyday lives of her students and creating opportunities to learn and grow from it. I think it definitely played a role in shaping Jefferson's views on his future, because he has no desire to be a part of the drug war, and he sees that he can do so much more than fall into the habits of those around him. And I think having those hard discussions, but those relevant discussions, can help shape our students' lives in our classroom.